What's up, freaks? This is just me, and today we're looking at the women's physique division, and in particular the Olympia champions that this class had up to this point, 2013 to 2021, last year's Olympia, that is. So, first, let me introduce you to these four amazing, beautiful ladies, I dare say. On the left is the original women's physique Olympia champion, Linn Bailey. She looks quite awesome in this artistic pose. I have a photo of her. She won in 2013 when this division was introduced at the Olympia event, and she only won once, but she did one more thing, and that was set the standards for the division. And she set the bar high because she looked splendid that year. But as I said, she only won once, and that was because she was beaten by the woman standing next to her on the screen. Her name is Juliana Malacarne, and she is a four-time champion. Awesome, right? 2014 till 2017, she was able to take the win and keep the crown. Also, such a well-developed physique with a very suitable structure, but she didn't compete in 2018. So there was, of course, a new winner, and that was the incredible Shanique Grant, the third from the left. Look at the X-frame on her in this picture here. An interesting pose, but looks wonderful. She is a two-time champion. She won in 2018 and 19, and she competed in 2022, but she got second place to the lady on the far right, our reigning champion, Sarah Villegas. Titles from 2020 and 2021, and possible a few more. Let's see how far she can go with such a fitting physique to this division. Okay, so now that we are familiar with all the competitors, we can go through the mandatories and do a little judging. The women's physique has 5 mandatories, and in this four-way comparison, I'm using each one of the ladies' first Olympia winning version. So this is 2013, 2014, 2018, and 2020. Let's see how the class has progressed and which champion is actually the strongest. I tried my best with sizing, but it was difficult, so hopefully it doesn't end up being too bad and a complete disaster. So the first mandatory is the front double biceps, a classic pose right here. I would have to put the amazing Linn Bailey last and give her 4 points, believe it or not, because I don't think her leg and quad display is doing her any justice. I don't like it as it shows the quads in an odd position, if you ask me, even considering the angle of the photo too. Her waist is the widest, it looks like, taking into account she's twisting, of course. And she looks good, especially in the arms, but someone has to be last. And I don't think she's beating anyone in this shot. Third, with 3 points, is Sarah Villegas on the far right. This is not her strongest pose either, but she still looks great, and she's got good muscle development in the lower body, but her waist also looks a little wider, I mean, compared to all these other competitors. The arms have a little bit of a stranger shape, and her execution is fine, but I think the two ladies in the middle have a way more artistic and consequently better execution. I would say Shanique Grant, the third in the row, is second. She's got a tiny waist, so she has an amazing X-frame and some great quads and abs. Very nice. I really like her in the front double. But for me, Juliana Malacarne is first, and she gets 1 point since she's got a great execution and a great lower body display. She's got really nice quads and calves. Her midsection looks small and ripped, and her arms, on the contrary, look very big. I would say she's probably got the best arms in this shot, at least. So she gets a deserved first place. The second pose is the women's physique version of the side chest pose, which looks like this. It's a pretty interesting looking pose. I do like it, even though it looks a little like a side triceps to me actually, but it's a side chest. And I would say Shanique Grand is for me last, but it's very close between all of them. I think Shanique's execution looks a little forced, maybe, and she has a cut triceps horseshoe, but her arm is not more impressive as the other competitors here look just awesome in that department, too. The legs look great on Shanique, and she is super shredded, but I don't think she is doing the pose as effectively as she could, so I think she's last. I would say Linn Bailey looks slightly better because she is not as conditioned, no, but her pose is well executed and she has great shoulders, triceps, and that makes the pose look that much better to me. But I can understand how Shanique might look better to some of you guys, though. Anyway, I think Juliana Malacarne is second, both in the row and in the judging of this pose. Her lower body from this side looks really amazing with all the cuts, and I would say she's got more than a decent triceps, so I prefer her physique in this pose. But I like Sarah Villegas the best. That's our current champion on the right. She has a crazy lower body. The calves, look at that, and the quads. Her glutes look unbeatable, and she doesn't have the best triceps, but she is in great shape, so she wins this pose, in my opinion. It's mainly the lower body doing that for me. And next up is a back pose, the rear double biceps, which is much easier to judge in my view. I don't think there is much trouble. Linn Bailey has to settle for 4 points since she has the weakest back, the widest waist, and the smoothest lower section. So I apologize, but she is definitely the weakest in this particular pose by far. Then I would say Sarah Villegas. I feel that her execution typically hurts her in this pose. She looks a little uncomfortable, and her arms would not be the biggest either. They have short inserts and they aren't very peaky at all, so that wouldn't help her. But props to her for having a great set of glutes and calves. Wow. Second place goes to Shanique Grant. I feel like the only advantage she has against Juliana is her smaller waist, and it's significantly smaller, that's true, and everyone can see that. But I would also say Shanique's legs look much thinner from the back and smaller as well as her arms and actually her back too. Juliana is kind of stockier, it seems, but she is still aesthetic, and her biceps look the same size as Shanique's, the delts and back too, but her legs are bigger, so for me, I prefer her physique in this pose, and she gets a point. Next up is the side tricep pose, a little similar to the side chest. I kind of wish they had a front lat spread instead, or something like that. But anyway, they have this pose, and it's significantly smaller, that's true, and everyone can see that. But I would also say Shanique's legs look much thinner from the back and smaller as well as her arms and actually her back too. Juliana is kind of stockier, it seems, but she is still aesthetic, and her biceps look the same size as Shanique's, the delts and back too, but her legs are bigger, so for me, I prefer her physique in this pose, and she gets a point. The next pose is the side triceps, a little similar to the side chest. I kind of wish they had a front lat spread instead or something similar, but anyway, they have this pose. In this pose, I have Juliana last. Her tricep horseshoe just doesn't show well in it at all, which is unfortunate because the rest of her body looks great. I mean, the abs and legs look fabulous, but it's not enough to get her a better placing in my eyes. In third, Linn Bailey, the first champion of the division, who has a really nice execution, although not standard. I think great work on that. and the whole style profile of her physique looks elegant and very aesthetic, but she's just not as conditioned nor as developed, I would say, as Shanique Grant or Sarah Villegas, whom I have in second and first. Second place goes to Shanique. She has great triceps and great quad development, as I keep repeating, and she is in great shape, perfectly conditioned, I gotta say. But for the win in this pose, I prefer Sarah. Her execution is pretty much perfect to my eyes. She looks so aesthetic and natural in this pose. The delts and arms are really strong. The abs look ripped and sunk in. And look at the ginormous calf back there. It looks like a modern day Dorian Yates. That is super impressive. So I think overall the winner for me in this pose is gotta be Sarah. And the last pose, the ab and thigh pose. I think similarly to the back double, it's quite clear that Linn Bailey is losing this pose, unfortunately. As I said many times, her V-taper is limited by her wider waistline, and she also has the trademark long quad insertions, so her ab and thigh looks very original, but I think with all due respect to the great competitor, it's not a very strong pose for her. Third place, and thus 3 points, go to Juliana, who I feel looks way better, but still it's not her best pose either. On the contrary, it's a great pose for Shanique Grant, who will get second place. She's very wasp waisted, and that really helps in this pose, as well as good quads and abs on her too. So she looks very aesthetic in this pose. But the winner is Sarah Villegas for me. We can see her execution is masterful, and her abs are really nicely formed. I think she's got the best legs too, so I prefer her to any of these three other competitors in this pose. And guys, that is a wrap on the judging. My fourth place finisher is Linn Bailey, who was the first to do all this stuff out of the four, so it sort of makes sense that the division has progressed since. Thanks for setting the standard to Dana. Her physique is by no means bad or weak in any way, shape, or form. It was mainly the conditioning that held her back. She had 18 points coming from 5 poses I judged, but her physique is still amazing, and a lot of people consider it one of the most aesthetic female physiques. In third is gonna be not the second champion in the row, but rather the third, Shanique Grant. But it was super close. Shanique has 12 points, and Juliana Malacarne has 11 points. So Juliana beats Shanique in my comparison, but she definitely wasn't that much better in my eyes. They were both in great shape, and they both had a complete aesthetic physique. I think Shanique's structure is way better, but Juliana had better development in some poses. But both set the bar really high for the division. And my winner is the most recent champion, Sarah Villegas, with only 9 points. I think she's the strongest champion, but if I'm being honest, it's possible that I'm slightly biased, and my view is a little bit skewed because I just like her build. I gave her the victory in 3 of the 5 mandatories I judged. I think she has the best balance of great size, structure, lines, condition, posing, just everything. Apart from the execution in the back pose and her short bicep insertions that are not ideal, other than that, she is virtually flawless as to her bodybuilding package to my eyes. But guys, let me know which one of the physiques is your favorite and which one of the champions you think is the strongest or was the strongest, and also if you agree with my judging or you think my judging could have been a lot better. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to watch some women's physique videos, and also like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day.